Okay, in this video, we're going to be talking about warming up before a round of golf. We know we should do it, we also don't. Or maybe we do, but it looks more like take a couple swings through here like this. We'll touch our toes maybe. But does staying or sitting in the pigeon pose for 30 to 60 seconds actually do the trick? And does it actually maybe make things worse? Stick around. We're going to talk a little bit more about what you should do, what you should not do, and what are some circuits and things you can actually do at the golf course. You don't need a gym to do it, to make sure that you're actually warmed up, ready for your round of golf, and it's actually going to improve your round of golf. So one thing we want to do while warming up is improve or increase our heart rate. Now that seems weird if we want to actually get warm when we're playing in June, July, August, and it's already pretty hot out. Getting warm isn't usually or really an issue, but we still want to get something to get our heart rate just a little bit elevated, right? The research says golf is it's an aerobic sport. It's marked by times of extreme power and speed, which is more anaerobic in nature, but for the most part, we have a slightly elevated heart rate and respiratory rate, and it's more of a zone 2 sport. We want to get our heart rate up to start. Now, this isn't just to get a little bit warmer, though that can be important. In golf, it's a little bit less important, but we should do it. It's really about the nervous system. So trying to warm up the nervous system too. That's why we have to do it, right? So if we can improve or warm up our nervous system, this is what leads to improved accuracy, consistency, and power in the golf swing later on in that round, as opposed to if we don't warm up. These are things that we're starting to miss on. We don't have the neurologic warm up like we would have if we spent some time warming up on the range beforehand. Okay, so does this mean just hitting balls, or is there more to it? Yeah, we want to actually warm up, right, like you would before exercising. But it might not look like what you think. So we definitely don't want to do static stretching. You can, if you enjoy it, you can go ahead and do it. And if it makes you feel a little bit better, that's fine, right? But static stretching, which might be something like we reach down for our toes and we hang out there and hold for 60 seconds. We can do it while sitting down or whatever. We can hold a pigeon pose for 60 seconds or something like that. This does create a little bit of length in the muscle. It's transient. It doesn't last very long like some people might think, but we don't want to increase the length of the muscle. So this is something really important that we need to understand. Before powerful movements and exercise, having increased extensibility of that muscle does not result in greater performance. Now, we've actually known this for a while. Warming up like this with static stretching before, say, powerlifting or heavy lifts decreases performance. So you lose some of that stiffness in the muscle and tendons that you actually want to perform well. Now, this doesn't mean we want to be stiff as possible. Obviously, that's not true, but there's a quality to the muscle, a quality of the ability to be stiff that we will miss out on. Stiffness means we can transfer forces through stuff easier, better, quicker, right? We can create more force in a shorter amount of time that way. So static stretching actually takes away your ability. It just decreases a little bit your ability to perform at your highest. So we definitely don't want to do static stretching. Again, if you enjoy it, we can do little bouts of static stretching. That's fine, right? Because you like it. But there's other things and probably better things that we can do to warm up before we start hitting golf balls before a round of golf. So what we want to do instead is dynamic stretching. What dynamic means is there's some movement, or at least there's some activity there. So instead of passively lengthening the muscles and holding out there, instead we're going to activate muscles through that joint range of motion that we have. We're not trying to create as much range of motion as possible passively. No, we have a certain amount of range of motion and joint motion, and we want to pull and push ourselves through that range of motion. We want to get the nervous system activated, flexing these muscles, activating these muscles through this range of motion, and existing at these kind of end ranges if we need to, but only with activation and co-contraction of these muscles around that joint. So that's what dynamic stretching helps us do, is we have motion and we have muscle activation and neurologic activation in these positions. Okay, so you have 20 minutes before your round. You're ready to rock. What should you do? First thing we're going to do is work on mobility. This is where that dynamic stretching comes into play. Okay, so if you want to do this to activate muscles through their range of motion, not improve our flexibility, but instead our mobility. So give these next movements a try. What I would do here is do a circuit of these movements 2 times through, spend some time with each position. If one movement feels a bit more difficult than the others, spend more time in that position or that movement. So this is what's commonly referred to as the world's greatest stretch. The good thing about it is that it's not much of a stretch. It's more of a mobility drill or kind of a muscle activation drill. So What we do here, we're in this kind of split squat position or lunge position. One foot's forward, one foot's back. This knee is off the ground. What we're going to do is just reach our elbow towards the forward side foot and then reach our hand towards the forward side foot and the ceiling. So rotating towards that forward side foot. What we should get here is a big kind of activation here through the glute and into the quad, maybe even a little bit of hamstring. To make or give us a little bit more is I want you to reach towards foot. And as you come up and reach towards that ceiling, I want you to try to get as much rotation as you can without this foot compensating and leaving the ground. But I also want you to think about pushing this foot hard into the ground, hard, hard, hard. So I can push this foot hard and not have anything move. I'm just putting a ton of force in through that foot. And same thing as I come up, I'm pushing that foot down hard, hard, hard. And I get a ton more of this left glute and quad working in that position. So it's a great kind of isometric muscle activation position that we can work into that'll really get these certain joints warmed up, moving, and feeling pretty good before we go out and play some golf or any other activity, hit the gym, different things like that. And it's a great kind of towards the end of your warm-up movement to get all these things working together. Go ahead, give it a shot.
Okay, for this thoracic rotation drill, we're actually getting a lot to happen here. So in this position, we have our left foot forward and our right foot back. Our hips are at 90 degrees in either direction, and our knees are at 90 degrees. So if you can mimic this 90-90 kind of shin box position is what it's called, then that's a great starting point. What we're getting here is external rotation of that left hip, internal rotation of that right hip. Now, this might be a little bit difficult for some of you to get into this position. If so, we can just work on, first of all, getting into this position. The more we can improve that, then the better our golf swing, right? Because we need to get into the backswing, left side external rotation, right side internal rotation. That's exactly the position we're in here, right? So we're getting that reciprocal motion where one side is doing one thing and the other side is doing the opposite. Now, where we can upgrade this and turn it into a thoracic rotation drill is we hold this ball. If we don't have a medicine ball, then just think about kind of giving yourself a big hug and creating tension in that way. And we're going to rotate towards that backside leg. So in this case, we are rotating towards that backside leg, and we're just kind of hanging out in this position. Now, what we need to do next is just own this position. So you should imagine yourself, we're going to breathe in through the nose, nice and slow. Breathe out through the mouth. Let the air kind of fall out of your mouth. Again, we're going to take a long time on these inhales and exhales. Own this position here where we're rotated towards our right side, and feel the tension start to build in your abs as you're pushing out every last bit of breath there, right? That's really important. Feel your abs start to turn on a little bit. Maintain that tension, 2 or 3 out of 10, and then breathe back in through the nose, maintaining that tension. What that does is that forces our ribs to internally rotate and kind of close down on each other. And then as we inhale, but maintain all that tension that we've built with the abs that are actually pulling those ribs in those positions, is that we keep those ribs down, and then we inhale, and we're teaching the diaphragm, we're teaching that thoracic spine, we're teaching those hips how to exist in this position as we breathe in and out, right? So that helps with the brain. It also helps with the tissue that are controlling these joints to start to get used to and actually adapt to these positions here, okay? So we start chest facing forward, we rotate towards that backside leg, and then from there, we breathe, breath in through the nose, breath out through the mouth, maintain that tension, another breath in through the nose, and then we can rotate back facing forward, and then we can rep that out. Just repeat that 4 to 5 times, kind of owning that rotation. Again, trying to get a little bit more rotation each time, but also trying to make sure we're standing up as tall as we can and standing tall as we do it, right? So a great drill to get everything working together. We are in a perfect backswing position here, though it doesn't look like it. We have our left hip in external rotation. Our right hip is absorbing that external rotation, creating internal rotation on the right side, and then we are rotating our thoracic spine to the right. Again, try this in both directions. It's important to try to maintain some of that symmetry, especially in a sport like golf where we tend to be so asymmetric. That leads to that pain, that discomfort, that overuse, right? So as a pain prevention, kind of prehab, make sure to do it on both sides, and then the same thing on the rehab side, we do it on both sides, but just make sure that we are getting it, and especially paying attention as we rotate towards our right with our left foot forward and our right foot back.
Okay, so this is a great on-course warm-up exercise or drill that we can do. Again, this is kind of a gym setting exercise that is geared towards creating internal rotation here at the hip, but we're just taking it and putting it on the course into a pre-warm-up kind of routine that you can do. So this is a club-assisted split squat with pelvis on femur internal rotation. The goal of this drill and pre-round is to feel some glute activation here, whether it's this glute and also this opposite side glute as well, but also a little bit of groin. So I want to open up space for internal rotation at this hip joint on this lead side, essential for accepting all that load into internal rotation in the swing, is I want to get really good and comfortable at pulling ourselves into that internal rotated position. So I start with belt buckle facing forward, and I finish with belt buckle pull as far towards that left hip as I can. So we can do 10 reps of this, but if we're making it really intense, we'll do 5, right? You don't have to do too many. Do the same thing, other side. Club is here, helping us keep our balance as we pull ourselves into the side. Focus more on what the belt buckle's doing and less on what the sternum's doing. This can come along for the ride, but we don't want to get here and feel like we're doing a good job when the belt buckle could be there, okay? So focus mostly on the waist and pulling that pelvis into that front side. We'll also, again, like I said, get a ton of glute to help us do this. We even get opposite side glute, but I want to get you into that groin as well. Go ahead, give it a shot. Good, so doing those movements, once you got them down, should take about 5 minutes at the most. We got another 5 minutes. What are some things we should do? Well, we should focus on speed and power now. So getting the body comfortable, getting the nervous system now really activated through speed and force and power with these next movements. So do another 2 rounds as a circuit of these movements right there on the range, and then you'll be ready to spend the last 10 minutes hitting balls as you normally would, warming up, practicing what you need to practice before you go out and play around. Okay, so this is a great movement to do at the golf course as a pre-round warm-up. So we like to do this movement a lot with a kettlebell. It's essentially a split squat position here. I stay on my toes. This helps keep my weight pushed forward. I want all the weight on that front foot. I got a slight bend in this knee. I want to keep that as I kind of swing the kettlebell. Now in this case, I'm not using a kettlebell. I'm using the club. So we grab either end of the club. We're in that same position. Length through the spine. Don't get too rounded or hingy there. We're down in this angle, and I just want you to rotate around that club. Maintaining full foot pressure. Don't lose that inside edge of the foot, and don't let the outside edge come up either. Give me some rotations here to start, and then we can work that into slightly bigger. The goal here is to live into this hip a little bit and glute. I want you to quickly find that this glute is working a little bit just to maintain this position. It's kind of rotating and pulling you in and out of that position. Get it cooking a little bit. Spend some time there, 30 to 45 seconds in this split squat. Again, keep all that weight forward, and we're hanging out here and hinging. It's a great on-course version of a kettlebell swing that we like to do. That'll get this glute working, fired, activated, and learning or kind of primed for creating rotation through here, moving out all that tension we might have in the posterior backside structures with the hip. And we also get that low back involved a bit as well. So go ahead, give us a shot. So if you've had cervical rotation or extension issues throughout the golf swing for a while that have been creating pain, discomfort, that's caused you to now compensate in your swing and say we've lost our ability to maintain our posture. Now, having cervical rotation issues will create vision issues, which essentially can create any compensation under the sun, right? So anything can go wrong if your vision is a problem. Let's say if early extension or any sort of postural issue was a problem for you as a compensation for whatever it might be, here's kind of a catch-all drill that we can do that'll help you maintain some of your posture, some of your angles, and different things like that. So the drill here is we're simply going to line up with the ball. You can do this at the range. And I just want you to raise both heels slightly off the ground. So we have both heels maybe an inch off the ground. All you're going to do is rotate into your backswing. We've already improved your ability to rotate through your neck. We've improved your cervical rotation. We've worked on integrating that into the swing a little bit. And now we're going to use that rotation, but we want to address all those other compensations that have come along for the ride. So we're able to rotate just like we need to. As we start to initiate this downswing, all I want you to do is now sit back onto those heels. So we start here with our heels up about an inch. As we come down into the downswing, we drop those heels, which should kind of give you this cue of hips back as we rotate down and through. So what we can do is hit some balls, starting with our heels off the ground. As we come down, we slam those heels down, keeps us back, feels or helps us cue us to what that pelvis should be doing in the swing. And we can take some swings like that, 80%, 70%, maybe up to 90% swings. Hit 5 or 6 of those just like that, and then try to get similar feeling at the pelvis through your full swing. This is just a way to work on posture in the golf swing after we've been compensating for whatever issue we might have had in the past, whether it be a mobility issue, some pain somewhere, or even a cervical rotation mobility loss. A way to kind of revert back and fix any most compensations that come from issues like that is trying to drill like this, raising both heels off the ground and then slam them back down the moment we initiate that downswing. Go ahead, give it a shot. Okay, for this drill, all we're trying to do is transfer the sensation and the use of space that we've opened up in the thoracic spine and rib cage. Is we want to transfer that to the golf course and onto the driving range a little bit for you. So we use this drill to help create that sensation, to help you use all that space that we've opened up to transfer it into that golf swing a little bit on the golf course, right? So for this drill, to help with that transfer process, what I want you to think about doing is imagine you have a band around your knees that are pulling your knees together. When you set up for the swing, I want you to push your knees out. I want you to keep full foot contacts on both sides. So I don't want you coming up onto your side of your foot like that or anything, but I want you to keep full foot grounded contact and then push your knees away from each other, or at least feel like you're pushing your knees away from each other. From there, I want you to maintain that as you rotate up through here. I want you to think about keeping a nice stable pelvis, right? So I have this knee pushing out, so when I try to rotate towards this side, I end up pushing through this foot, which is kind of trying to push me back. What that does is it helps kind of lock this pelvis and everything below it, locks it up a little bit so that we have to rotate more through the thoracic spine. And I'm a little bit stuck in what I can do here, but same idea goes. When you're out on the range, I want you to think pushing your knees apart, keeping your foot grounded, limits how much we get from that pelvis and below, so that now we can really focus on what it feels like to rotate throughout that thoracic spine. Just keep like a little 4 out of 10 pressure of knees away from each other, pushing your feet into the ground as you rotate, and just feel that thoracic rotation through your swing. Take a couple swings like that. Again, just feel what it's like to get all that motion coming from that's low back and up, and take a couple swings, see how it feels, see what it feels like to actually use all that space that we've opened up in that thoracic spine and apply it to the golf swing. Then go back to your normal swing, whatever other drills you're working on, and forget about what you're doing down here. Let everything else go natural, and you'll be able to kind of transfer that thoracic rotation a little bit better into your swing. Give it a shot. Okay, so these are some practical movements that you can actually do before a round of golf. We gave you examples of stuff you want to avoid, and instead the stuff you want to focus on for mobility and then speed and power before you go and practice whatever it is you need to practice for the last 10 minutes. So 10 minutes focusing on the physical, the integration, and the next 10 minutes on working on the skill and the technique of the golf swing before your round. Okay, if you found this video useful and helpful, feel free to like, share, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.